The Shoshone people, children of the Great Basin, knew the land like the backs of their hands. Generations had lived and died beneath the endless sky, following the rhythms of nature. But you know, nature can be cruel. The winter bit deep that year, snow piled high, and the animals vanished like smoke. Hunger gnawed at their bellies, a constant aching presence. The elders held council, their faces etched with worry lines as ancient as the mountains themselves. They spoke of lean times before, of sacrifices made to appease the spirits, but this famine was different. It threatened to swallow their people whole. Mothers, their own bodies gaunt and weak, held their children close. The little ones, their eyes wide with confusion and fear, cried out in hunger. Each whimper was a dagger to their mothers' hearts, a constant reminder of their powerlessness. Hope dwindled with each passing day, like embers fading to ash. Amidst the despair, a terrible whisper began to circulate, a whisper of a sacrifice unlike any other, a sacrifice that would haunt the land for generations to come. The whispers started in the shadows, hushed and desperate. A mother, driven mad by the cries of her starving child, suggested the unthinkable. Massacre Rock, where the Snake River flowed strong and deep, became the focal point of their terror. The elders argued, their voices hoarse with grief and exhaustion. Some spoke of ancient taboos, of the wrath of the spirits. Others, their faces haggard with hunger, saw no other choice. The cries of their children echoed in their ears, a constant reminder of their impending doom. The decision, when it finally came, was made in the dead of night. One by one, they were lowered into the churning water. Tiny bodies too weak to fight were swallowed by the current. Their cries, muffled by the roar of the river, were a chorus of despair that echoed off the canyon walls. The mothers, their hearts breaking with each sacrifice, watched in numb horror. The current, swift and merciless, carried the children downstream. Their small limbs, flailing in a futile attempt to stay afloat, disappeared into the darkness. The water, once a source of life, had become a watery grave. But you see, something strange began to happen. The river, which had been flowing smoothly, began to churn and roil. Whirlpools formed, spinning like ghostly dancers, their cold touch pulling at the mother's skirts. The air grew thick with a chilling mist and the temperature plummeted. The mothers, their faces pale with terror, stumbled back from the water's edge. Their grief and despair were palpable, a suffocating presence that hung heavy in the air. The spirits of the river were awake, and they were hungry. Years turned into decades, decades into centuries. The horrific tale of the Shoshone sacrifice at Massacre Rock became a whispered legend. Some dismissed it as folklore, a cautionary tale told to keep children away from the water. But others knew the truth. The river held secrets, dark and terrible secrets that refused to stay buried. Fishermen spoke of strange currents that appeared without warning, of lines snapping as if pulled by unseen hands. Boaters told of sudden violent storms that whipped up out of nowhere, the air thick with the sound of children crying. And swimmers? Those who dared to enter the water at Massacre Rock rarely spoke of their experiences. Those who did whispered of pale shapes gliding beneath the surface, of eyes that watched from the depths. The spirits of the sacrificed children, unable to find peace, were trapped. They haunted the river, their cries echoing through the canyons, a chilling reminder of their tragic fate. They were no longer the children they once were. The river had twisted them, reshaped them into something monstrous, something that craved vengeance. The unending sorrow. The cries of the water babies were most haunting at night, a high-pitched wailing filled with an unbearable sadness. It was a sound that chilled the blood, transcending death itself. Locals knew to avoid the river after dark. They shuttered their windows and ignored the cries. To show sympathy was to invite the water babies' attention. Some whispered of shadowy figures at the water's edge, pale hands reaching from the depths to drag victims to their doom. The legend became a chilling reminder of the price of desperation. It served as a warning to those who ventured too close. Listen, but do not heed their cries. Look, but do not acknowledge their presence, for the water babies are forever lost and they will drag you down with them. Section 6. Echoes in the darkness. Campers at Massacre Rock sometimes reported hearing whispers on the wind, faint and chilling, like children calling for their mothers. The braver souls would venture closer to the water, their flashlights cutting through the darkness. There were stories of hikers stumbling upon small, wet footprints near the water's edge. These prints led towards the river, but never away from it. Some nights, when the moon hung low and full, casting an eerie glow upon the water, you could see them. Or a fleeting glimpse of something pale and slender just beneath the surface. The locals knew better than to investigate. Some secrets are better left buried beneath the black water. Section 7. A glimpse of pale flesh. One hot summer day, a group of teenagers, ignoring the warnings of their elders, decided to go swimming in the river near Massacre Rock. They laughed and splashed, their voices echoing off the canyon walls, oblivious to the darkness that lurked beneath the surface. One of the girls, venturing further out than the others, felt a sudden chill despite the heat of the day. She paused, treading water, and looked around. Her friends were still splashing and playing, oblivious to her fear, but something felt wrong. The water around her seemed colder, darker, and then she saw it, a pale, almost translucent hand reaching up from the depths towards her. She screamed, a primal sound of terror that echoed through the canyon. Her friends, finally realizing she was in trouble, turned to help, but it was too late. The hand grasped her ankle, icy fingers digging into her flesh. She thrashed and kicked, desperate to break free, but the grip was too strong. One by one, other hands emerged from the depths, their touch like death itself. She was pulled under the surface, her screams swallowed by the rushing water. Section 8. Do not answer the call. Her friends, horrified, could only watch as she disappeared beneath the surface. The water bubbled and churned for a moment, then fell still. They never saw her again. The legend of the Idaho Water Babies, once a chilling campfire story, took on a new and terrifying reality. The locals, their faces grim, knew that the river had claimed another victim. The water babies were hungry, and they wouldn't rest until their thirst for vengeance was quenched. Those who lived near Massacre Rock knew the rules. They taught their children to stay away from the water's edge, to never go swimming alone, and most importantly, to never, ever answer the cries of the water babies. For to answer their call, to show them even a flicker of sympathy, was to invite them into your life. And once they had you in their grasp, they would never let you go. Section 9. Forever Lost. The Idaho Water Babies became a symbol of the river's dark power, a reminder that nature can be both beautiful and merciless. Their cries, echoing through the canyons, were a constant lament, a reminder of the tragedy that had befallen them, but they were also a warning. The water babies were forever lost, their souls trapped between this world and the next. They longed for release, for peace, but their anger and sorrow bound them to the river. They were condemned to haunt the depths, their cries a siren song to the unwary. Some say that the only way to appease the water babies, to finally give them rest, is to return what was taken from them, to offer them a sacrifice in kind. But who would be foolish enough or desperate enough to make such an offering? The thought sent shivers down the spines of even the bravest souls. The water babies were a force to be reckoned with, a reminder that some wounds run too deep to ever heal. Section 10. Beware the water's edge. So, if you ever find yourself near Massacre Rock, listen carefully. You might hear the cries of the water babies echoing through the canyons. You might see their pale forms gliding beneath the surface, their eyes watching you from the depths. But whatever you do, don't be tempted to go near the water. Don't let their cries draw you in. Don't let their sadness fool you. For the water babies are waiting, and they will show you no mercy. The river is their domain, and they are the masters of their watery grave.